How we doing, everybody, and welcome back to the Catalyst, where we break down all things bullish in the crypto markets. Today we have another exciting video for you, kind of highlighting AMP once more. So this is a Reddit post that's referencing, I think, a Facebook post, and then which is then linked to a Twitter post. So credit to basically all the people that did this. This is not my own collection of resources, but I figured it would be useful to kind of go over all of this. So this is 21 bullish points and cases for Flexa as a whole and AMP as a collateral token. So it is mostly done from this Twitter feed by @InfiniteAtman. So if you want to give him a follow or them a follow, I'm not sure. That would, I'm assuming, be helpful to them. Additionally, this is just a great source of information here. So let's jump right into it. So the first point that we have that they post here is that, one, there are no drawbacks with Flexa. Merchants can easily accept digital assets while settling for fiat. There's no need to update hardware or engage in any crypto-specific complexities. There's no compliance, tax liability, security, or exchange rates. So you see that here we have sheets going with Flexa and connecting their point of sales solutions with the NCR payment gateway, enabling them and other retailers to quickly integrate these new solutions, these new innovations in digital currencies. Retailers will then benefit from this, increasing loyalty in their customers, increasing the types of transactions they're able to manage with lower transaction fees, reduced fraud, increased security, etc. The next point that he makes here is just that mobile payments are going to be the future of payments in general, and their dominance of card payments will decline. China and South Korea have already embraced mobile apps as their main payment method, and then we will soon to be follow. You can kind of see this with like Apple Pay and similar things. Eventually, like, you won't need a wallet. We're going to be limiting everything probably to our phones at some point. You already have the ability to pay with your Apple Watch if you have that, or other smart watches. So this is another bullish case for us as we go to completely digitizing our currency and our fiat system and our payment systems. We'll be able to kind of do that using Flexa as the main communicator between all of these different methods here. The next point is based on security. The biggest thing that we have lately is just the fact that, like, historically the traditional terminal payments are kind of hackable. You see the viral videos of people pulling off the chip reader at a gas station or whatever it might be that has been like farming your data and your information on your card. The fact that a lot of things are like password protected, which is really not that secure in terms of protection in general. So kind of, using crypto as a whole is more secure. And then the Flexa network itself, it has a very high security with their, zero fraud cases on the Flexa rail so far and everything like that. So that's super, super important because as transactions go completely digital, we need to make sure that we have the proper security for that as well. Then the next point here is just breaking down some more issues of security and privacy. Again, we have a long history of credit card and data breaches. So we have the traditional clearing methods require the routing of that data through a lot of different intermediaries, which all have a risk of being subjected to leaks or hacks, or etc. With Flexa, the customer data is no longer stored in a centralized location, because it'd be on the blockchain in the Flexa network. So we see a decrease in the number of data breaches from last year, or from 2019 to 2020, but the difference in future is now these data breaches are being replaced with acts of fraudulence. So now with a Flexa network, or just crypto in general, there's less data required to kind of process any of these types of transactions. So we are less subject to this type of vulnerability going forward. Additionally, we also have some good news about stablecoins. Federally chartered banks can facilitate stablecoin payments, issue their own. What this means too is there's going to be more securities that the banks will have, which will require potentially communication between, if that bank is settling with a stablecoin of its own and you need to make a payment of some other kind with a different bank, or any type of transaction, AMP will be able to collateralize that payment, so let banks communicate easier, which is somewhat traditionally not a very easy thing to do. It takes several days to process payments between banks, and again, subject to some security issues, obviously. So having Flexa kind of be able to manage that, allow banks to establish their own stablecoins with the knowledge that they will have more ease of transaction between other accounts and stuff like that, will be really, really beneficial to not only banks, but the more traditional finance users who are used to using the traditional banking system. This would be an easy communication for them to kind of take advantage of the security and the benefits that the Flexa network can provide, while maintaining just their traditional normal use of their banking system without too much change for them there. So then we have this issue lately. The banking system, the traditional banking system, has a steady growth of about 3% per year over the past 6 years. Alternatively, though, other specified and specialized payment providers, processors, acquirers, schemes, etc., they've actually had double-digit growth rates over the same time period. So this just shows you how the technological advances for finance are outpacing the historical traditional methods of banking. So the banks are going to have to quickly adopt and adapt crypto in order to keep pace and not become obsolete. The next generation, our current generation even, is far more technologically inclined and more apt to use digital currency. So the banks are at risk as the older generations fade out. They're at risk of less and less user base being able to kind of use their banking system. So this is a big point for us here. Going forward now, the idea that Flexa is open source as well. So the Flexa rails are open and permissionless. Anyone can utilize their reach by simply integrating the Spend SDK. There's no complex onboarding, no additional bank accounts, no centralized administrative overhead. So you are pretty easily able to kind of integrate into the system. I believe it's currently in early access or beta testing, and it'll be out in a few months here. It says wide release this summer. So you can definitely take a look at this. This is obviously really beneficial in general. So just providing ease of access for everyone is going to be the biggest kind of play for them, because again, as we've talked about Flexa and AMP and everything, it's mostly about adoption and not so much about its price point. Everything will kind of grow exponentially with it as the adoption increases. Because if this becomes the main collateralizing token or collateralizing system, the entire banking system and everything like that, and just transactions in general, is worth like trillions of dollars every year. It's like it would be the main way for all currencies to communicate, all transactions to be resolved with ease of communication between the currencies. This has potential to be an insanely high market cap just based off of that alone, especially with like global economies kind of taking on Bitcoin as well as just other cryptos in general. This is going to be potentially huge as more and more countries and entities take on crypto as a whole. So now we have just the idea that it is completely decentralized, so that goes back to some of the security issues as well. It makes it harder to hack or have any data breaches or anything like that. So the Flexa network is not owned by a single entity, free of the need to make profit, and cannot be bought out. So there's not going to be one entity that's taking it over by like a 51% attack or anything like that. It has an incentivized structure that is hard-coded to maintain the network health. So that's people staking their AMP there to help kind of strengthen the network as a whole, with really low fee structure. And he states, like, how do you compete with that? Which is, it's a tough thing to compete with. It has the simplicity using DLTs. Any transaction can now be verified globally. Flexa automates the public verification and turns it into a ubiquitous, decentralized, permissionless clearing layer. Simple and elegant. Liquidity. Through these decentralized collateral pools, applications can instantly source large amounts of liquidity from a global market without the need to raise any capital. Fosters innovation and competition, which is very healthy, in a capitalistic environment that the nation and the world is in. And additionally, we have some distributed risk because we have, Flexa's approach to decentralizing and using it as an intermediate liquidator. It can kind of patch the uncertainties of confirmation times, avoiding single points of failure, etc. And the network is in fact self-regulating. And you kind of see this with its capacity, right? So we see that we have this much capacity, which has actually been growing quite well lately. And then we have all of the AMP that is staked as well. So we are able to kind of manage a lot of payments. Additionally, it is going to be cheaper than traditional card payments that are consistently, have high operational expenses for the merchants, etc. Like there's, as a business owner, if you have like credit cards or something like that that you're receiving, you have to like pay back a portion of that to like process those payments. So it's going to be difficult for companies to kind of buy into that if they have a much cheaper alternative, which you'll have with AMP. Additionally, we have the decentralized collateral. Being able to kind of, process all of these types of payments without, much risk by either party is super beneficial to them, to everyone involved, really. And then we also see this. Crypto Stripe. Flexa raises 14 million so you can buy coffee with Bitcoin. It is basically realizing the kind of inception of what Bitcoin was thought to be. Like eventually you could be able to just, buy a coffee with crypto. So we just have this idea that like we're kind of realizing Satoshi's initial vision by offering a ubiquitous solution that makes digital assets spendable, providing payments, for digital assets has been something that hasn't been popularized too much. It certainly has grown over the last couple of years, but it's still not something that's part of everyone's daily life or their daily activities. They're not thinking when they're buying their coffee like, oh, maybe I should buy this with Bitcoin. When that does become popularized, though, this will certainly be a reason for Flexa to be integrated across, all payment rail systems, and just integrated through the blockchain and through the network itself, because it's going to allow that communication between different cryptos and stuff like that. People will have their own preference. There'll be ADA people, there'll be ETH people, there'll be Bitcoin people, and everything in between. Stable coins from banks, like we talked about earlier in this video. All of that is possible now, as crypto is becoming more adopted. With that adoption, we will need more communication between the cryptos and stuff like that, and the different points of sale and everything, and Flexa is going to be able to help initiate some of those processes. The other thing is that people are talking about is how it's kind of invisible. So Flexa will be kind of a background player. You'll be able to still use your current preferred method of payments, or whatever your adopted method of payments would be. So eventually, if we do switch to more digitized methods, like so no card transactions, but scanning a QR code on your phone or doing that kind of tapping system, all of that stuff will remain familiar to you with whatever system you currently use, but you'll be having likelihood of AMP and the Flexa network being used kind of in the background to fulfill whatever that transaction might be, communicating your preferred system to the point of sale system, and kind of everything in between. Additionally, there's some points about compliance. From day one, Flexa has been closely working with regulators, etc., being fully compliant with all of the traditional things from the political sense, government sense, and just regulation in general for finance, which is huge. We see the impact that XRP has had with their lawsuit issues and stuff like that. We don't currently have that with the Flexa network, which is really, really good. Additionally, it kind of solves some issues of exchange rates, so there's no more price volatility impacting the payments between different currencies and stuff like that. Also, we see 30,000 stores are now operating on the Flexa network, which is enormous, and that is just scratching the surface as well. So that is going to be really, really beneficial for, like I say, with the increased adoption becomes, we'll get the kind of added benefits of the network itself. So as it grows, it'll just get better and better as we get more and more adoption. So the next point is kind of the exchange rates. So as we know, Flexa solves the problem of the price volatility impacting payments, confirmations, and allowing for instant transactions for the merchants, which are guaranteed to receive their local fiat equivalent of the transaction without the need to exchange. So that is huge. That goes back to the point of the transaction fees that we talked about earlier. The next point also is just the use case in general. Flexa's generic collateral token AMP is widely applicable, even beyond payments where value transfer requires instant finality. AMP can help that, facilitating leverage settlements, lending markets, or even minting. And this is kind of that snapshot of AMP being able to work within all of these types of interfaces and being able to process all of that. Additionally, it is kind of agnostic. It integrates itself and allows to kind of harmonize with all payment experiences of different types of assets. So these supported digital dollars at the moment. You can imagine as banks create their own, there might be a Bank of America coin or whatever it might be. You can imagine as those banks make stable coins, those will also be accepted so that any individual can use their currency from their bank, and there might be different rewards or whatever, different types of interest rates and stuff like that, so better APY potentially than traditional banking. As those banks make their own stable coins, they could have some benefits that would be greater than what the traditional kind of finance systems are like now. And the last point is made is just patents alone. The key modules of Flexa's architecture are protected by patents, including the concept of sourcing decentralized collateral through staking pools. So that is obviously huge. Patents can drive any company's value just because they can isolate whatever their strategy is or whatever their product is or whatever it might be with the patent, making it so that they can minimize any competition and secure their intellectual property or whatever it might be. But that's huge for AMP, obviously, because, if we have control and, I don't want to say monopolize, but individualized control over this type of system and network, it's going to be difficult for others to compete with us and letting us be the dominant force in all of that. So again, make sure you guys check out Infinite Atman on Twitter. This was an amazing post, and it's quite a lot to consume. 21 major points though for AMP as a whole, and I'll link this down below as well, so check him out. Otherwise, that is all I got for you guys. always bullish on AMP, and I think we are still due for quite the run up. And again, if you haven't followed me either, I am at _catalyst on Twitter as well. And we will catch you guys next time. Let me know what you guys think about AMP. Peace.